Cynthia Canary, Executive Director of Independent Maps. Thanks for joining us on the Illinois Channel. We are in the midst of this budget standoff as we tape this. One of the items that the governor's been looking for is just what your group is also advocating, although you are unassociated with him. Tell us, what is the purpose of your organization and what you hope to achieve?
The purpose of this organization is to put an amendment on the ballot in 2016 to change the way that we draw our state maps in Illinois, to put them in the hands of an independent commission and take them out of the hands of the legislature. And while the governor has been quite outspoken that he thinks this is a good idea, we feel very strongly that this needs to be a people's initiative, and so that is exactly the kind of movement we're building.
And so, lest anyone thinks you're doing the bidding of the governor, that is not the case. We're just emphasizing that you're totally unrelated. But why does your organization think that this would benefit Illinois?
I think that when you look at the way that we draw the maps right now, the legislature draws the maps for the legislature. There's an inherent conflict of interest. And, we all know that there's that crazy system. If the two parties can't agree, we go down the line and ultimately we draw a name out of a hat to decide who will draw the map. And that, deciding the partisan balance of our state, deciding what districts will be competitive, which won't be, so randomly just makes no sense. It really, I think, is an insult to representing the voters.
And anyone who's ever looked at the maps will see these squiggly lines, how the politicians who drew the maps will carve out so that one district is heavily Democratic, another might be combining a bunch of Republicans in it. And so the Democrat in the heavily Republican district really has no chance of election and vice versa. How would, if we had this employed in Illinois, who is it that would draw the maps and how would they be doing it any better?
Right. If we enact this initiative, the map drawing process will go to an independent commission. So it will go to a citizens commission of 11 people. Those people in drawing the map will have to follow the Voting Rights Amendment and all federal legislation on map drawing. But the one thing they won't be able to look at is political data and the home addresses of incumbents. So they really will go around the state, talk to citizens, look at communities, and try to put them together in logical, representative ways without the kind of gamesmanship that we see now that stacks the map either, in favor of the Democrats or in favor of the Republicans, depending on who's drawing the map.
What have other states done this, and if so, to what extent has it improved democracy in those states?
There are a variety of other states that do this. Probably the two most germane are Arizona and California. And California, which adopted this in the last map-making cycle, saw some pretty dramatic results. Their assembly had been Democratic. Their assembly remained Democratic. But in their primary, they brought in a lot of new people. So there was a lot of new blood brought in, a lot of new ideas. This certainly isn't designed to flush out incumbents, but it's designed to make sure that incumbents who do a good job and reflect their constituents are represented, and we don't just re-elect people because there is no competition.
And you had mentioned, number one, there would be an 11-person board. How would those people be appointed, or are they going to be appointed? How do they get to be in that position?
The process will run through the Auditor General's office. It will be a public process. It will be through public applications. And in fact, they did it this way in California, and strikingly, over 30,000 people applied to be on their MAPS commission. If we do half that well, that will be terrific. So 7 members will be drawn from these public applications, and then each legislative leader will be able to put one person on this panel. The panel will be split Democratic, Republican, and Independent.
So the leaders would put one, so that's 4. The other 7 are just, it's kind of a lottery out of whoever applies?
Well, it's a little bit more than a lottery, because we really need to look at demographic diversity, geographic diversity, and the partisan balance, making sure that we have independents, Democrats, and Republicans. So we will, in essence, you can think about people being divided into different buckets and then randomly drawn.
Now, there's always a question when you do this. First of all, the constitutionality of it. Let's go back to just the mechanics. You're in the process now of getting signatures from people to put this as a constitutional amendment on the ballot. What is that process to get a constitutional amendment on the ballot? How many signatures do you need, and by when do you have to have them?
Yeah, it's a daunting process in Illinois. You need 8% of the vote from the last gubernatorial, and in this case, it's about 292,000 people, valid signatures. We will need to submit them by the beginning of May, 6 months before the election, to the State Board of Elections. They then will do a kind of a sample to check the validity and to make sure that we're sitting in the best possible place. We already have 400,000 signatures, and we're going for about 600,000.
Now, people might say, who's behind these people? What are they up to? How are you funded in getting because this must cost some money to make this happen.
Yeah, it costs a lot to make this happen, a real lot. And anyone who's interested in seeing where the money comes from can see all of it, all the expenditures and all of the income. It's all on the State Board of Elections site for independent maps amendment. We are raising money from individuals, small donors, large donors. We've gotten money from all around the state. We get money on our website, and from both Democrats, Republicans. It's really been pretty amazing to me to see the money come in this way, to see the signatures come in this way. I think that people recognize that things are broken in the state of Illinois, and this is seen as one very good way to fix things.
What is your website, number one, and number two, if someone wants to say, yes, I'm for it, I want to sign, can they sign online, or do they have to find someone with a clipboard?
Our website is mapamendment.org, and they can download a petition there. They can get more information. Unfortunately, you cannot sign online. The state of Illinois does not make it easy for people to put initiatives on the ballot. So these are not my rules, they are the state's rules. But throughout the state, most every farm bureau has got petitions available. Many of the leagues of women voters, the chambers of commerce. So there are a lot of petitions out in the communities, or you can just download one.
Let's talk about the constitutionality. There was a term limit amendment last time that was thrown out. Why would this be passed the constitutional muster, do you think?
Well, in addition to the term limits amendment that was thrown out, in 2014, there was also a different version of redistricting that was thrown out. And when Judge Mary Mikva gave her decision on the 2014 amendment, she really did a nice job. She gave a long 10-page opinion and said, in fact, she believed that redistricting would meet the threshold for constitutionality, but the amendment as drafted 2 years ago was written too broadly. So we really kind of hewed to her opinion. We streamlined it, and we're very confident. We've been working with our attorneys at Mayer, Brown, and Platt from the development of the language straight through to when, no doubt, we will be challenged. We expect to be challenged, but it will be that same team of attorneys, and we're feeling very confident.
And then if this is passed, it's on the ballot, how much of the vote, is it a simple majority, or you need a supermajority by the voters?
You've got two ways to go about it. Once again, not easy. You either can get 50% plus one of everybody who takes a ballot, which in a presidential year is quite a lot of people, or the more reasonable formula will be 60% of those who vote on the question will have to approve it. So that's what we're going for, because so many people, they go into the voting booth, but they don't go all the way down to the bottom.
And that's where this would be.
That's where it'll be, so check the bottom of your ballots.
So it's, conceivably one of the most important things on the ballot for the history, or the future, I should say, of politics in Illinois. If it then is approved, let's say there is a constitutional challenge, and if the court does approve it, when would it actually then go into effect?
This will go into effect for the next redistricting cycle, which will be 2021, right after the 2020 census, which seems like a really long time away, but is not.
All right, well, Cynthia Canary, we appreciate you taking the time to explain it.
Thank you.
Thanks.